Hello, hello, Edson Oliveira here. This is the third interview for the DNN Summit 2018 talks. And today I have with me a good group of well-known faces in the DNN space. We're going to be talking about some technical things. We're going to be talking about some more marketing-oriented things as well. We have a mix of different sessions here. I'm going to start with my longtime friend, Chris Hammond. Chris, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
I'm doing good. And I want to start because I never had the privilege of talking to you like this, of talking to you in an interview kind of style. So I want to take this opportunity to ask something that I'm curious about. It's something, very, very minor, I think, but I'm curious about that anyway. What is talk? What is Chris talk? What is a TOC? I mean, what is that?
It absolutely means nothing. If you want to give it an association, just say table of contents, but it means nothing. It was 23 years ago. I got to choose an email address at the college I was going to. And for some reason, that was an option. It was a limited list of what you could choose. So it was Christopher, but for some reason they put the C on the end, and that's what I chose. And that's what I've stuck with.
You know what? When I look at it, the first thing that comes to mind is table of contents, really, But I said, you know what? It cannot be about table of contents. It must be something else there. But that's fine. We can live with that, Okay. So, Chris, I'm going to start with you, as I said. Let me ask you this. Can you give us a little bit of a background story of 1 minute to 30 seconds background story on you and DNN and what goes on there?
Yeah, so I started with DNN back in January 2003, I guess, and just kind of stumbled on it. I was getting into the .NET space and was looking for something to build a e-commerce website with. And kind of stumbled into the iBuySpy portal, the iBuySpy store, and kind of took that and built a career around it. It's just a matter of timing. And I got into that open source space in the project and really kind of ran from there, turned that into a career with Engage. We built up a DNN consulting business around that. From there, I went to DNN Corp, ran the training business. Since then, I've left, but I still do a lot with DNN with my open source work and even a little bit of consulting here and there. So.
Awesome. Great story there. Now, let me ask you about your, Visual Studio templates, because, I'm a developer myself. I don't do too much coding lately. But when was the first time that you put that out there, for people to download?
I couldn't even tell you when it was. I started working on them back when I was with Engage. Brian Dukes and I kind of did a lot of work around templates. I guess it was when I was at DNN Corp was when I kind of first got them out there in a installable, downloadable format. And then just over the years, I've been able to maintain them. I really haven't done much with them in the past year or two, but I actually need to do another release just with some updates for some libraries. But they've been out there for, I guess, it's been about 5 years since I left DNN. So they've probably been out there for 7 or 8 years now. And I think they're just a great way for people who have never worked with DNN to just get up and running, start building tools, building extensions within the platform.
Actually, I can tell you the date of the first release from Codeplex is around 2010,
Okay. Yeah.
So again, I've been a big user of that template as well. Over the years, I have used it a lot of times. I see how many downloads are there on that template. I would like to ask you, how does it feel to have, a product or, something, a piece of code that it is, out there with so many people downloading, so many people benefit from it? I mean, how does that feel?
It feels awesome. And to be honest, that's what I get out of it is that feeling that that so many people can use it. It's available and so many people have used it. And to be honest, there's so many people that use it and don't ever change anything that I get people calling me, asking me about modules that I built. that I didn't build, but I can tell them where they came from. They came from my template. They haven't changed the name. They haven't changed the email address. And it's turned into a nice little business here and there as well. So, but it's, for me, it's a big, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I get a lot of encouragement to do more just based on the usage and seeing people do it and people utilize it. Awesome.
I'll get back to you in a second. Let me go around here, and I'm gonna go to Mr. Nagy. James, I'm calling you Mr. Nagy just because I have a good friend of mine, and I think I mentioned that to you. His name is, he's a Nagy as well, and I call him Mr. Nagy, So, James, thank you very much for being here. Can you give me a little bit of a background, a 1 to 2 minutes thing on your background, your company's background? Why are you talking that session? Go for it.
Sure, absolutely. Back in, about 10 years ago, I got involved with DNN and was asked to build a website for a group that I was working with. And, I went out and I looked at the different products that were out there, and I have a .NET background and a Microsoft framework background, and so DNN was just a natural fit for me. So I put together a site for them, as just a kind of a volunteer project. And I had several people who were very excited about the website come up and ask me, could I build a website for them? And I was working a full-time day job, in corporate America, and thought, yeah, I can build a couple of websites, a little extra money. That'd be great. Pretty soon it was 4, 5, 6 websites, and the money was starting to come in. And I thought, hey, this would be a great time to maybe, get out of the corporate world, start my own business and start building websites, which I did. The market promptly crashed the next year after that. That was 2008. And the market promptly crashed. And I met up with some business partners through the Chamber of Commerce. My business partners, Don Gingold, Kate Gingold. And we got together and formed Sprocket. And from there, we've really branched out from building websites to doing social media marketing and now content, creation for customers. And so, my talk is around, creating content, especially in a difficult, marketplace with, customers who have difficult businesses. And I just want to kind of share those experiences and what we've learned and how we've done that. So it's been a great ride. Love DNN. Still my favorite platform. Do a lot of different stuff with it. But social media marketing and content creation is now a major part of our business. So there you go.
Got it. So I usually like to put people into a few buckets, and right or wrong, that's usually the way my brain works. So if I were to put you in a bucket of, are you a marketer or are you a techie guy? I mean, where are you?
So I wear lots of different hats. So I'm a techie guy. I was a programmer by trade. So I've written code. I've written database queries, done all that kind of stuff. My responsibility with Sprocket is to keep all the servers up and running and websites working, to do all the upgrades. I do all the installations, that type of thing. So I'm a techie guy at heart. But really, I'm a student of marketing, and I love all things marketing. And so I spend lots of time doing marketing research. And then, of course, the last hat that we all wear is the sales hat. And so enjoy sales, enjoy talking to people, enjoy helping people. So what I get out of this business is being able to watch a small or medium-sized company set some goals and then achieve those goals through efforts that I've helped them with. And that's kind of an educator's background, but I like to help educate people and teach them about the ways to do things, and then see them succeed at that. That's where I get my charge out of business.
Awesome. So let me go back here to your specific session there during DNN Summit. You mentioned about tough industry. So, content marketing for tough industries. So what is a tough industry in your opinion?
So one of the, there's several. You can think about, the insurance industry, or if you're, a tax accountant, you're a construction, facility. One of my favorites is a customer that we had, which is an automotive body repair shop. And nobody needs an automotive body repair shop until they need an automotive body repair shop. So how do you create content for, a group like that and reach people so that you have brand awareness when they do need your product or service. So we've kind of developed some, tips and tricks and outside of the box thinking in order to create content for those types of industries and engage with folks. And so my talk is about basically how to do that and how to write content for those tough industries.
Got it. Okay, so you mentioned a few, and they all seem to be service-oriented types of businesses. So is that the reason why they are tough? Is that because they are service-based and it's hard to come up with engaging content for those types of businesses? Is that why it's hard?
I think so. I think, a lot of this is service-based, and, the real tough industries are the ones, again, that nobody needs their services, like a plumber, for example. You don't need a plumber's services, and you're not going to read articles about plumbing, in your home until you, have a need to call a plumber. And hopefully we've written some content that people have, discovered and stumbled upon and said, oh, hey, this plumber is in my community and, he's doing good things in the community. So when I need a plumber, I'm going to call ABC Plumbing or whatever, whatever the name happens to be. And so it's our goal is to be top of mind and really focus on brand awareness so that when people have a need for that niche industry, that they can reach out and find them. So those are the tough industries, the things that you don't need every day. It's not a product that you're buying, but it is a service that you're buying. And when you need them, you want to remember, hey, I remember reading something about this particular company, so I'm going to reach out to them because they support my local community.
So you mentioned there a keyword, you mentioned there discovery, how people discover that. So when you talk about discovery, are you talking about social media? Are you talking about SEO? Are you talking about PPC? Are you talking about a mix of all of that? I mean, what is a discovery?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix of all that. The focus of the talk is about the content itself and how to create a content calendar, how to create a series of articles that you're going to write, that type of thing. We then use social media to, drive the traffic back to that content. But if you're not creating engaging content, no amount of social media effort that you put in, whether it's social media, SEO, pay-per-click, etc., you're not creating engaging content, people aren't going to read through it and remember something from that content. So this talk is all about the content, not how the content is discovered, but how to create engaging content that is meaningful to people so that your organization or your customer's organization stays top of mind.
Awesome. Jeff, I'm going to move to you, but don't be shy, Jeff. You can probe James. I mean, I know that you guys have
let me jump right in then and probe James in a most appropriate, business appropriate way.
Of course.
So James, you talk about creating content and near and dear to my heart, but why don't you, in your opinion, what is the universe of content? What makes content, and does it extend beyond the web page?
Oh, definitely extends beyond the web page. One of the things about creating engaging content, especially for a difficult customer, is to try to, there's a couple things we want to try to do. We want to try to make sure that there's a connection between the customer's customer, so people who are looking for this. We're trying to create a connection and a desire for them to want to engage with this particular business when they have a need for it. And really to show people that there's more to just the business than what they do. How do they get engaged in other things in the community? How do they promote their own internal employees? How do they treat people who work for them? How are they giving back to the community in terms of community involvement? How are they, working in the industry? Are they an industry leader? Are they putting out concepts? Are they attending trade shows? What are the different things that are going on? So one of the things we try to do is to sit down with the customer and explore all those different avenues and say, what are the things that we can focus on that you're doing? And a lot of times it's an education piece. Here are things you should be doing that you're not doing. And if you start to do them, then we can engage with additional customers. So the content itself is, it's a strategy of how to develop that content, but it's how to be engaging to the customer's customer and try to create a connection and a brand awareness. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks for sharing.
Awesome. I'm gonna move on, James, but we're gonna be back to you in a second. Jeff, let me go to you now. Give me your 1 minute, 2 minutes intro about yourself, what you do, and just to give a little bit of context, I know Jeff way back then when he was still part of Power DNN, Manage.com. So again, I know him for quite a while now. But Jeff, please go for it.
Well, the first thing is you say 1 or 2 minutes to talk about myself. I can talk about a cup of coffee for 2 hours. So, you know, it's I'm a content guy, right? So it's a challenge. I'm in a unique space. I've been in technology my entire career. I've been on the hardware side. I've been on the software side. I've been on the hosting side. I've been on the cloud side. And I've pulled, you know, had leadership positions in all of them. And in every single position I've been in, one of my jobs has been to talk about human behavior. I think my career focuses around human behavior. So let me define that for you. My undergraduate degree is in communication studies, which is the psychology of communication. Why we say things the way we do, what we mean when we say them, and how do we transfer meaning to other people. And I'm finishing my master's right now. I'm in thesis in economics, which is the science of human behavior with resources. So my entire career focuses around that. So this ties into my 2 topics. I got 2 topics for the DNN Summit this year. One of them is how to create and write persuasively. And the other one is on the dirty secrets of social media. So let's go from there. I'll start with that. That's less than 2 minutes, so I'll stop there.
Yep. Okay. Good. So that's a good start there. Now, you know what? To be honest, I'm a bit concerned about talking to you because you'll be looking at what I ask you, and you're gonna be reading between the lines, and behind what is it that I really mean about that. So again, you will be analyzing myself. So I'm a bit worried now, but I have to keep going anyway.
You're way above my pay grade, Anderson.
Right. Yes. No, I'm very, very shallow here. Okay, so Jeff, let me ask you this. Again, one of the topics is about the dirty secrets of social media marketing. So
yes.
What are some of the common mistakes that people do or companies do whenever they want to engage or they want to try to engage people and clients and prospects on social media? What are those the most common mistakes?
Well, I'll tell you what. If I may, I'm gonna change your question a little bit and then answer your question. And I'm gonna start by saying that the most common mistake that people make when they address social media is they believe it exists. There's no such thing as social media. So it's a label that we've hung upon a category of other things as a way of disarming those other things. And that's kind of the meat of my presentation.
Okay, so bring it down,
sure.
Bring it down to earth here, because now I went, it went way above my pay grades. Bring it down to us. Bring it down to the common, humans here.
All right. Well, see, I don't want to give away all the. There'd be no reason to come to my presentation.
Okay.
But so let me suffice it to say that when we imagine social media, we imagine it, and it's marketed as a way for friends and family members to keep in touch and to interact over time. But as you approach it from a business perspective, you can't look at it that way. That's not the function that it performs. And ultimately, on a platform like Facebook, if you think about how it exists as a business, it is a very powerful platform. But its purpose is not to connect people. It's not to make. I talk with my DNN friends in Europe and all over the world every single week on Facebook. But its purpose is not to facilitate that communication. Its purpose is to use that communication to facilitate something else. And so my presentation is going to specifically talk about those things. Now, that said, the biggest mistake that I think that businesses make when they approach social media is they approach it selfishly. They say a lot about what they want to say or what they think needs to be said or the messages that they want to deliver. And all good communication starts with the communicator, the person delivering the message, understanding what the listener, the person on the other side of the screen, what they need to hear. And the difference, if you just tell them what they want to hear, you're a salesman. If you tell them what they need to hear to understand your message, you're a communicator. So the biggest mistake they make is they either go from a complete selfish perspective or they go to the sales perspective and they miss that whole chunk in the middle. So that's the biggest mistake, and also the biggest misconception about social media, in my opinion.
Got it. So what you're saying is that they either go the me route of it's all about me and this is what I do and this is how we do this, and so it's me, or they, which to be honest is an extension of me, which is I'm selling this, I'm selling this, I'm selling this, I'm selling, buy this, and they don't go in between to, as I guess as you're saying, to educate, to connect, to engage. Is that fine? Is that right?
Well, that's in a way, and I hopefully I'm not getting too deep in the weeds, but there's other aspects. I think, and I'll give you one that I'm going to go into great detail in the presentation. Social media is one of those most powerful, and you only get one. The social media's most powerful attribute is not in its ability to speak to your audience. Its most powerful attribute is in your ability to listen to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, James, if you want to chime in, I mean, by all means, please, because you have to help us out here. Jeff is, you can hear very deep stuff here. So if you want to maybe, bring it down to our level. No, I'm just joking, Jeff, please.
I need to get a doctor's robe and a little miter board cap for these things, so I look very professorial, right?
James.
Exactly. So one of the things that we talk about when we talk about social media with our clients is we are involved in the Chamber of Commerce a lot, and we do a lot with the Chamber of Commerce, and we use the power of networking through the Chamber to get word of mouth business, to get people to start talking about our businesses to their customers, etc. So when we talk about social media, we talk about doing just that, the networking that you would do face-to-face, whether it's a BNI group, whether it's a Chamber of Commerce, and meeting people and trying to take that and harness it with social media. So my question is, it is about listening to your customers and getting response back. I totally agree with that. But it's also about communicating who you are and why people want to do business with you. At the end of the day, people want to do business with people that they know. And the power of social media and the power of networking is to get to know someone without trying to sell to them. In a networking group meeting, I wouldn't walk in and look at the first person I see and say, hey, buy my product. And then go right to the next person and say, hey, buy my product. What I would do is say, hey, I'm Jim. I've been with the Chamber for X number of years, so on and so forth. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, please let me know. And I move on. I'm networking. So we try to teach social media as just another extension of networking. And that tends to help, kind of disarm customers and say, okay, well, I know how to network, so I kind of know how to start this social media process. But I am sure there's lots of great secrets, and I'm very interested in your presentation, Jeff, to learn about that. But does that concept make sense about, showing people or telling them to use social media as networking?
I don't disagree with that. I don't, but at the same time, it's, when you participate in social media, the objective. All right, let me ask you this. I get followed all the time. I got people. I did a tweet last night or first thing this morning, because my life becomes a blur after a while. When I was talking about, I was thinking about this session we're having right here, and I was thinking about my job history and how that kind of makes me, an interesting perspective of all the different types of aspects of technology that I've had exposure to. And I got a lot of people, because there were keywords in there that people were listening for. There were people looking for people who said things like technology, and people said things like hosting, and people said software development, and you have all these little supposed communities out there. And I picked up 5 or 6 followers specifically because of that tweet, but none of those followers are real, right? So they're, and when I say they're not real, they're real people. They have real social media accounts, but I know that all 6 of those followers were automated responses. I know that. I know it because I've done a lot of listening.
Sure.
So when I say, I'm not saying you don't use it for networking, but I'm saying that, when you approach, even if you approach networking, I guarantee if you walk into that Chamber of Commerce meeting and you are there for one of 2 reasons. You are either there to truly participate in the community, or you're there to get business. And I'm probably going to be willing to bet money that if you're just there to get business, people know you're just there to get business.
Oh,
but if you're there to truly participate in the community, because that is your community. Heck, look at this thing we're doing right here. This is our community as well. I'm here communicating. I'm giving away stuff. We're all talking about our little presentations. We're giving away stuff for free because it's the community. I've known most of you guys for a long time. So my motivations, if I was sitting here saying, and my goal was to, Chris Hammond, you need to start spending money with me. I'm pointing down because on my, there you go. That's perfect. Right. I'm saying that comes across, and that ultimately is less successful. But if I can take and say, what messages, if I can listen to Chris and say, what messages does Chris need to hear? Not what I want to do, not what I want to say. I want to know what Chris needs to hear so that he engages. I don't want to get him engaged. I want to give him what he needs to come and be engaged. So I'm phrasing it in a different way. So networking, absolutely. But I think there's some deeper purposes there.
Totally agree. And again, there certainly are, when you attend a networking event, you can certainly spot the people who are there just to try to sell their product or service to the people in the room. And those people will only have short-term successes. The people who are in the room to make relationships and to make long-term, business connections and meet with folks and have them ultimately help, make a connection down the road. I get way more referrals for business from my chamber connections, than I do from even my customers, because customers are good sources of referrals, but they just had one interaction with me, where from the chamber perspective, I do a lot of education, I do a lot of training, I do, a lot of, helping people understand, the technology that's out there. And then they come back and we're able to say, I learned this from Jim, and you should work with Jim because he's really a good guy, that kind of thing. And I try to take that same message out into social media as well. Absolutely a lot of automated followers out there for sure. And I'm not really paying attention to the number of people that I have connections with. I'm paying more attention to the people who I have engagement with. So when I put something out and somebody responds and say, hey, that's a nice job, or I really appreciated that article, or whatever the case may be, that to me is the real engagement. Would have been the same type of engagement I would have gotten face to face, but I'm trying to reach a broader audience through social media. So, lots of great stuff there, lots of, things that I haven't thought about, in a long time from social media. So again, really looking forward to your presentation and learning all your secrets. So,
Jeff, I'm gonna get back to you, but next time around, I want to talk about a mindset shift, because what you're talking about requires, business owners to have a mindset shift there. So I'd like to touch on that, but let me go around. Joe, it's your turn. How is your mic? How is your, working out there?
Let's see.
Okay, so you have a minute to introduce yourself.
Hey,
my
Jeff,
partner in crime, we meet once a month. So I know you, very much, but introduce yourself for the one or two people that do not know about yourself.
Well, kind of the short story is, and I discovered DNN in the 2006-2007 time frame. And my story is that in building a website using DNN, I needed some help. And it was very hard to find help. If I had a budget around $50,000, there were people who would talk to me. So it dawned on me that there were probably lots of small operators building websites who could probably use some help. And the long and short of it is, I've been doing this now for 10 years. Met a bunch of really nice people, and discovered that I was part of a community of people who were using DNN. So my contributions to the summit, I have two sessions. One of them is called the DNN community. And I want to use that to make sure that people who attend the session know what the DNN community is, know where to find it, know how to access it, know how to get help. And I educated myself about DNN by offering to help a fellow named Lee Sykes at a site called DNNcreative.com. And I became the question answerer over there for.
And if I may ask, how many posts have you done on DNN Creative?
I checked a while back, and it was, I think, around 11,000 posts over there. So my second session is directed, aimed at the people who come to DNN Summit. And in the back of my mind, there is one vital question that they need to have answered. If they get it answered, they'll go home happy, pleased that they went to DNN Summit. So the session is titled Help, I Have a Question. And great thing about this session is it doesn't require preparation on my part. I just show up and answer questions. So to those folks who are coming to DNN Summit, and there's really something that you need to know, I'll introduce you to the DNN community, point out who to talk to, how to get help there, and I'll be there personally to either answer your question or
diffuse,
point you to somebody who's at the event who may be able to answer your question.
That's a good point. So on that note, Joe, if you can come up, and I'm gonna ask you, what would be the most common question that you see about DNN over the years and maybe more recently? What is the most common question about DNN?
I'm not sure there is a most common question.
Or topic.
Maybe
let's pick a topic.
They're really kind of two kind of topics. One is, how do I do X using DNN? And maybe the other one is, help. My DNN site is broken and I have absolutely no idea what to do about it. So I would approach that latter one by introducing them to diagnostic things that they can do to help figure out what the cryptic error message is saying. You know, there's nothing worse than /server error. Tells you absolutely nothing that you didn't already know that there was an error. And somewhere there, I think I kind of made a reputation in the community is if you have a site that needs upgrading and you can't upgrade it, call Joe. And I have some scars and interesting stories to tell about that, which might make for a future topic.
You know what? I mean, that classic one, object not set to an instance of an object. I mean, I don't know. One day I'll meet that developer that put that message there, and I'm gonna squeeze his neck until I don't know. Anyway,
well, you know, that one actually on occasion provides you with some clues, but the server error click to return to site, which refreshes into another server error click to refresh site, is the fun one.
Joe, let me ask you that. Right now, again, not looking at the past, right now, today, where is the best place to ask questions about DNN? Where would you go?
My favorite place for me is still the DNN forums. And if you can get the attention of one of a half a dozen people, you're in really good hands. So there's some really good people who wander around the forums.
Like Sebastian?
Like Sebastian. If I didn't know any better, I would think that Sebastian is an autoresponder because he responds quickly and prolifically.
He's a bot.
The difference being he's an AI because he usually has the right answer.
Yeah, he's a bot, Sebastian the bot. You know, we call that there. Sebastian.
I'm pretty sure he has a team of developers who just respond with that same account. I think that's how it works.
Yeah. Well, I should say, just in going back through my history at early in my career, I ended up, I was building a site that the two major modules on that site were active forums, creation of Will Morganweck, and something called Engage Publish. And I'm not quite sure I remember who wrote that, but yeah, that guy. And I wrote Chris a question at one point, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to be in Bethesda, Maryland tomorrow, visiting with a customer, and it's probably going to be half a day. Why don't I come by and we'll chat about it?" I learned a lot in the couple of hours that Chris sat at my desk and showed me how to do some debugging and things I didn't understand yet. And then we dragged him off to a local DNN user group meeting. So we occupied the rest of his day real well.
Yeah, it was a good trip, and a couple times I think I got to come out and see you, Joe. It was a fun time.
I
really remember the crab cakes.
That restaurant closed, unfortunately, but they still have a carry out. We had their crab cakes for Thanksgiving dinner.
Okay. So if you're going memory lane here, I mean, I met Chris at some point here in my city. I mean, he came to a community center close by to give a talk to our local user group as well. So that was, I don't know, 2010, 2011, something like that, you know. But Chris, I want to get back to you.
That, if I can, that goes back to the whole focus of the two presentations I'm giving. That one of my introductions to the greater DNN community. Later on, I started traveling to go to meetings in Florida and North Carolina and things like that. But getting to know people and having a list of phone numbers and email addresses of people you can talk to, you're not as isolated as you might think you are when problems arise.
It's very useful to have that. Chris, I want to get back to you here. So even with your template, even with how easy it is to use, I mean, we had, and even today, developers are still struggling to get started with DNN module development. But again, even with a template so easy to use like yours, where do we attribute that to? Who do you attribute that to? I mean, why people think that it's still difficult to get started with module development?
Well, I think in terms of why, it's always been something that the community and the organization around DNN, they have never been good marketers and good messengers around how something works and how to find the right tools. So even when I was at DNN, we just didn't do that well. We didn't have a good training documentation resource, and it's unfortunate because I think if that was something that had been available to the community 15 years ago, 14 years ago, I think not that we haven't had a good run and it's been great and there's still a good future. I think it would be a completely different environment today if there had been that available. Part of it also is that things change so frequently and quickly, or they have in the past, that there's always it doesn't work that way, or this looks different than this material, this documentation that was written 6 months ago. And while those of us on this call and a lot of the people that have been in the community for a long time realize that even though it changes, it's still the same. It still, for the most part, works the same. You build a module today the same way you did or could have done in DNN 4. and in DNN 3. So there have been some changes along the way, but it really isn't that much different now. It's also, you still have the old, the web forms approach versus MVC versus SPA. So there's a bunch of different approaches. And I think a lot of it, again, is just kind of the communication, the messaging around it, making it easy for people. My templates, I hope make it easy, but at the same time, they do require a couple things that if you don't have your environment set up the way I recommend it, you might run into problems. And the way I recommend it is based off of 15 years of personal experience of banging my head on the wall, banging my head on the desk, solving problems. So I'm trying to get back in and start doing some more videos. I did some last week, and even I screwed something up. So I created a video on hey, I screwed this up. Here's what happened, and here's how I track it down. Because that's where, for me, I've always excelled at finding problems, figuring them out, solving them. And so I want to, instead of creating the perfect series of videos, I just wanted to show people here's how I fix it. Here's how I track it down. That's where I think a lot of people just struggle within our community. And as Joe said, how do I find an answer? What do I do to try to solve something? So.
And Anderson, may I just say, I am not a software developer or a coder. I've hired some, but I'm not one. But I have tweeted and retweeted Chris's tutorial videos because I know people who are having a problem. I always send them to Chris's site. He's one of the top 3 people I send to. It's people to get information. Chris's site, both of them actually, are one of my resources. Go to.
Awesome. Chris, you mentioned that you think, you subtly mentioned that you think that you need to update some things on the templates. What do you think is next now for the templates? Where do you see them, you moving them towards, or what is it that you would be adding there? What would you like to see there,
I don't see a whole lot of change in terms of adding functionality to the templates just yet. What I do see is just updating some of the libraries, packages that need to be updated. If you don't have NuGet Package Manager set where it'll go and do updates, it doesn't always grab the latest, and if the references change, etc. So there's just a little bit of tweaks on the templates. I think where the opportunity lies with the template project is not creating new project templates, but adding some different types of approaches to adding controls into an existing module. So you can, within Visual Studio, it's very flexible. I had no intention of ever getting into the extensions within Visual Studio. I found a need within DNN, and creating the project templates allowed me to get into that space. There's a lot more you can do within Visual Studio that I think just will make it easier for people to add additional functionality to their modules without having to just do it from scratch.
Got it.
So that's kind of, I think, where there's opportunity there for the templates. And then the longer term play is just coming up with additional resources on how to do things. That's the unknown. I mean, Joe mentioned Engage Publish. We didn't know what we wanted to build or how we wanted to build Engage Publish within DNN, but we figured it out. And for me, it was always about finding another resource that showed me kind of how to do something, to be able to know and take something further, take a project, a module, an extension further. So for me, it's creating additional tools and resources around that become available to people so that they can say, okay, well, here's a module that does X. I want to figure out how to put X into my code. So that's where I see opportunity for stuff.
Chris, I want to put you a bit on the spot here. If you don't want to talk about that, that's fine. I want to just briefly mention about something on the side here. What do you think about the new DNN Corp?
I'm interested to see where it goes. I think it's a needed revival. What I've seen, I think, will be at least has been promising up front. They're doing a lot more. interacting a lot more with the community. There's been a lot of changes there. Some of those that concern me, a lot of people that I know and I worked with are not necessarily there anymore. But I think the team that they've put together and the outreach that they're starting to spend within the community, at least is a good first step. I'm a pessimistic bastard, so we'll see where it goes. I hope it goes far. I really do, and I want to be involved in it. I want to continue to see it go far. I've been within this project and this community for coming up on 15 years. I would love to be talking about this another 15 years from now.
And again, the reason why I ask you specifically is because you have been in the community for a long time. You have been inside DNN Corp. You have been outside DNN Corp. You have been, you have done the entire tour. Let's put it this way, Great. Okay, so James, I'm gonna jump to you. We are coming towards an end. We're gonna go final round here. Actually, there's another one, but let me ask you this, James. What is a compelling and engaging piece of content? How does it look like?
So, a good piece of content is very relevant to the industry that you're writing it for. But we like to create content, that is short, sweet, to the point, and tells a story and doesn't take forever to get to the point. So, what you really want to do is capture the reader right up front. And, we go back to the old standard of using essay format. We're going to tell you what we're going to tell you. Then we're actually going to tell you that. And then at the end, this is what we told you, so we kind of summarize it. And so, that old, adage works really well. Getting right to the point and being able to just get our message out there quickly. But compelling content is very much industry specific. So depending on what industry we're talking about, how we develop that content, we do it differently. So it's not a one-stop shop, here's one formula that fits everyone kind of thing.
Got it. This is a fire round here quite quickly. Jeff, let me ask you that. I mentioned last time that, there needs to be a mindset shift for businesses to not go sell, not do, first of all, me, and not just go selling very hard. How do you help a business to move their mindset, a business owner to move their mindset and see that it's not just, it's about engaging, it's about contributing. How do you move that?
Well, the first thing is the best avenue is to choose your customers carefully. If you have a customer who will not be moved, that's a problem. But if you have a customer that is willing to be persuaded, then you have a shot. And I found the best way to change somebody's mindset is to get them not talking about themselves, but get them talking about themselves. So let me tell you what I mean by that.
Again, going very deep here, Jeff. Okay, come on, stick with us, Jeff. Okay.
So I can teach you how to reach your customer's behavior by showing you your own behavior. I can teach you what social media platforms you need to be on by having you tell me what social media platforms you're on. I can teach you what kind of social media works by discovering what worked on you. And so the best way to prove it is to take it out of the business context and to say, this is you. What did you respond to? Why did you click on that? You clicked on it, but you want somebody else to click on something not anything like what you just clicked on. You clicked on that because you liked it and it engaged you, but you want somebody else to do something completely different than what you just did. And I think that's one of the best ways to take and penetrate the wall.
Got it. Okay, looking inwards, looking at how they behave. I like that. I got that. Good. Joe, I want to move to you, Joe. You're gonna be doing a guided tour of DNN. Can you tell me 2 or 3 spots that you're gonna be featuring for people to during your tour? No.
Going to start with the resources that are available through DNN Core. Going to talk about the groups that are actually the the outside community of DNN users, including the DNN Association, which organizes and delivers the DNN Summit event. I'm going to talk about how people can form their own little subgroups of the community, and talk about online resources where people can go and engage people like themselves, people they will have met at the event. I'm a real proponent of showing up and getting involved, whatever that means, and there are multiple ways to do that. But the first DNN event that I went to that was outside of my local area was a Sunday afternoon in Orlando, where a bunch of people had some of the ugliest bowling shirts on that I'd ever seen. But it was the at that time the .NET Nuke Brain Trust. Met a guy named Will Stroll. Met Sean, met Joe Brinkman, met Scott Wilhite, and met some other users who were doing the same kind of things I was doing. So I went home from that with names, faces, who I could contact, and I did.
Awesome.
Going forward, and I want people to, not leave my session so much, but to leave DNN Summit knowing that if they haven't figured it out already, they are part of a group of people who have a real mindset to help one another. And since this is November 30th and tomorrow is December 1st, just want to let everybody know that there's another part of DNN Summit called DNN on the Slopes. If you really want to bond with some people at the event, tickets are now available for DNN on the Slopes. 2 days of being cold and having fun.
Awesome, Joe. Thanks for that. Thanks for reminding about the DNN Summit registration. So, final round here. Quick rounds. I'm just gonna ask each one of you for the one thing you want people to leave your session knowing about. Let's start with Chris. Chris, how to use Chris Talks Video Studio templates for DNN to build a module and theme in 45 minutes or less. The one thing, what is it?
I want people to realize how easy it is to build for this platform. That's it. That's what they should walk away from my session with.
Awesome. James, content marketing for tough industries. What is the one thing?
So I want people to go away with understanding that there isn't any particular industry, product, or service that content can't be created for. And then the tips, tricks, and techniques about how to tackle those tough industries and be able to create content, compelling content that people want to read for whatever industry they happen to find themselves writing content for.
Awesome. Jeff, you're gonna have 3 spots here. First one, the dirty secrets of social media marketing. The one thing there.
Human behavior hasn't changed in all of 10,000 years of recorded human history, and technology hasn't changed it even that much. So if you remember the rules of all those history, you'll be more successful.
And content that persuades, the psychology of messaging.
Selfishness never persuades.
Well, man, let me tell you, you were the deepest one so far. You were the deepest, so no question about that, But great, hey, love it. Joe, let me finish with you. You have 2 sessions, but the other one is it's a Q&A, so I'm gonna ask you about the first one. The DNN community, what is the one thing that you want people to live knowing about it?
You are part of the DNN community and how to take advantage of that knowledge.
Awesome. Guys, thank you very much. Anything else that anyone wants to mention before we close this?
No, the last time.
Look how good Anderson looks
No.
without lighting.
It's
That
pro,
camera,
man. I'm pro, man. I'm pro. I have 2 lights in front of me. Anything else, or can we depart? Awesome, guys. Thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you for your time. And I'll see everybody here during DNN Summit 2018. Thank you very much. Bye.